We are here this morning at the office. It's April 30th, Thursday, and wanted to commit, at least during this time, to try to provide weekly updates based on really real estate as it manages through the coronavirus pandemic that we're experiencing, shelter in place, social distancing guidelines. So through several of these videos, if you watched them, we've talked about things that we're doing and how business is still getting done. Today, I'd probably just want to talk more about what we've seen over the last 30 days, because it is April 30th in the market, and how people are actually reacting that we see in our transactions. And granted, every transaction is different, but oftentimes you see a trend. So for starters, I'm just going to talk about the numbers of Clark, Oconee, and Barrow County. Let's see here. In the last 30 days, which today is the last day of the month, so we'll probably see several things close today, but there's been 200 home sales in those three counties. There's been 286 new listings, and 211 properties have gone under contract. So 200 is a significant number there. Those are probably surprising numbers to many of you if you read the news and hear how things are going from one perspective, and then you hear another news and you hear something different. So it's obvious that we have not shut down. There's still a lot of transactions going on. I feel like a lot of activity has happened in the last 2 weeks as we sort of got over the first phase of this, which is phase of feeling and reaction to it. I'm not speaking to when things are better with the virus, but the main thing I want to talk about is, I know a lot of people out there might be knowing they're going to have to buy, knowing they're going to have to sell, and there's worry about what's going to happen with home values or how many buyers are out there. Well, what we're seeing in a lot of the transactions is there is an expectation that the sellers are expecting to still get the top value. And there is a culture of fear that some buyers are living in that worries that, well, is this value going to be there? So I feel like we're finding some transactions a little bit more, contentious. We're finding a larger request than we might expect. And in some cases, I do feel like people are being opportunistic in their negotiations that often don't work to their favor. And in some cases, I do understand and they're correct in their request. But I've seen this in personal business. I've seen this in company business. I've seen this just in talking with other realtors about larger requests being made. And so what I want to speak to that is, if you're a home buyer, you need to understand that it's correct to be cautious, but you also need to be realistic. You need to understand what is a fair transaction and not just kind of say, hey, well, you should do this because of what if. There's a lot of experienced people in the business that know how to manage through that. So, we are seeing more buyers in the market. So the leverage of saying you're the only buyer was a lot stronger 3 weeks ago than it is here on April 30th. To a seller, you also need to be cautious and measured and realistic. Not every request is an opportunity. Often people in an inspection do find warranted items, and it's our job to help us go through that and go, hey, we understand and let's manage it. But we've seen too many times where somebody in that due diligence phase is trying to flip it on its ear and say, well, with the way things are going, you might want to accept this. Well, we're not going to play that. Sorry. That's not the case. We're still negotiating with buyers and sellers normally. Nobody's panicked. We've got enough activity on good properties. Obviously, something at a lower price is going to move quicker. If you get above 500, 600, 700, 800, less people can buy it. So for the most part, it hasn't been too abnormal. I would say more contention, a little bit more hurdles that you're worried about. But so far, our company's really only seen one fallout from COVID-19, and this has been since March. So my hope is that we'll start looking better and better as we get through the spring and the summer. And just wanted to kind of have that talk because I think most people are experiencing that in transactions as sellers and buyers. And just kind of in the world in general, there's a lot of doubt. So that's what we're seeing and how we're going to find a path through. And in the meantime, if you have a plan to buy or sell coming up, feel free to reach out to anybody here at 5 Market Realty.